G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome back for episode 39 of the Path of Exile Survival Guide. I think episode 39. Guys, I'm gonna level with you, it's been a while since the last episode, and you know, we've had bunches of patches in Path of Exile, we've had Reaper of Souls launch, and countless other games coming and going. And I want to keep this series going. This is something I want to keep working on and finishing. So even though it's been a while, I'm not going to be stopping. And for you guys in the future, it'll be like nothing ever happened anyway. You just go from one episode to the next in the playlist. And if you haven't seen that playlist, check it out in the description below. But in this episode, we're going to be continuing our journey with the Rayclouse Survivalist and our Lightning Arrow Ranger. And heading on towards Piety is our next sort of goal, our next clear objective in the game. Because, you know, while you're going from normal to Merciless Act 3, you have these clear objectives. You're like, okay, I'll go kill Brutus, okay, I'll go kill Merveil. And then you're like, you know, alright, I'm in Cruel Act 3, I'll go kill Piety now, I'll go kill Dominus and things like that. Whereas once you get to Act 3 Merciless, after you kill Piety, there's not much kind of that's handed to you on a plate. Things aren't quite as obvious then. When it gets to that point, you actually need to start setting your own goals. So we'll talk a bit about this idea in the episode, and I'll talk about some of the goals that I have for this character, and it'll sort of maybe some of the goals you might have as well. But before we begin our progression, I just want to give you guys a little bit of info here that I have upgraded my bow on this character. Now I did this using the currency that I found on this character, and it was actually, I was able to get a reasonable deal, something probably I would say 15 to 25% below the average price of most other bows. And I did this by simply checking out sites like poe.xyz.is over the course of a few days and waiting to see until a bow with the physical DPS I was after, so with a decent amount of physical DPS, and basically that's determined by how much currency you have to spend is the actual amount of physical DPS I had. And then I went for the one that was put up that was, you know, a bit cheaper than the rest, and I bargained with the seller and was able to get a few more chaos off and was able to get it at a pretty reasonable price. Now I'm not going to bother telling you the price because these things change depending on the league you're in, the time you're trading at, the people you're trading with, and basically how fast you want to make the trade. So that's not so important, but it is important to know that if you do want to get a good bargain on a good endgame bow, it's a very important skill to learn, to take your time and watch those things over time. You know, check it, you know, just check it. Just like do your regular farming, keep progressing on your character, and every, you know, couple hours, maybe check it once when you first start playing, once when you're about to finish playing, and then, you know, just do that once or twice a day. That's enough to sort of spy those good bargains and pick them up, and you'll get a good sense of the economy and how items and gearing and stuff like this works in the game. It's one of the best ways to learn these things. Now, just for comparison's sake, here is my previous bow. In fact, hold on, I know a feature. People keep telling me to use it, but I keep forgetting. So a previous bow was Carrion Twine, which had 106 to 278 fizz, and then 17 to 29 elemental damage. Now, the cold damage was really nothing significant. It just slightly boosted DPS, but this build is all about physical scaling, so be very aware of these damage types and what's very important. Whereas the new one has, it doesn't look much different. It's got 104 to 320. So we can see there's actually, you know, about 40 extra top-end physical DPS there. However, it also has 0.11 more attacks per second, so it's 0.11 faster in attacks per second. So this means that it's actually a very large jump in physical DPS, and because it's jump in pure physical DPS as well, there's no other elements on here to worry about. We're not factoring that into the calculations. This means everything scales much more nicely. Things like added fire, and later on auras, if we switch out of blood magic, will scale much more nicely as well. So we can go ahead and get rid of this bow. If you've got, if you've had a decent endgame bow before you get your really good bow, then you can set this aside, put this in your own shop, and sell it maybe for the price you got it for, or slightly cheaper. So that's a good strategy to go for, and this is something you just want to work for. Now, as I said, I did this with the currency I found on this character. I ended up getting pretty lucky on a few finds throughout this character. I found an Exalt Pure and a Tabula Rasa, which sold for an Exalt, if I remember correctly. So that's 2 Exalts, and was enough to buy this bow. Now, if this doesn't happen to you, then you just need to buy something, as I said, the Stepping Stone bow, and just keep going, slowly accrue that, and as you work into endgame farming, doing the chaos vendor recipe and things like that, until you can accrue enough chaos to sort of, you know, find a good bow. And you can just simply keep checking, and try and find those good bargains, like I said, and eventually you should find something cheap enough. And as you find more currency, you'll be able to look for slightly better and better bows over time. So that's basically the general process there, and that's how I've gotten this upgrade. So let's head on into the warehouse district. To get to Piety, we need to cut across here, so let's go straight in there. Now, hopefully you did grab this waypoint. I had to go re-grab this waypoint because I didn't the first time through, and we're going to be using the Infernal Tower from the last episode to run through here. Now, at this point, you can use a public party. As soon as you burn that, you can simply open up a public party here. I can open up the social panel, go to public parties, and look for people doing piety farming or Lunaris farming or something like that. Now, I see lots of trading posts in here in Standard, but I can't see many parties going on at the moment. But you kind of want to just have a look through. There's usually people doing piety or Lunaris runs, level 66, sign a camp, and you can just sort of see what people are doing, and then you can use that, or if you have some friends, you can get them to drop a Lunaris portal for you. But I'll be continuing solo. Honestly, I like playing Path of Exile solo a lot of the time, and even though you have to progress through a few extra zones that you could skip otherwise, I usually enjoy the challenges of that as well. Now, a lot has changed since the last episode, quite frankly. There's been a new patch, a new major patch, labeled a mini expansion, Sacrifice of the Vaal. And no doubt if you guys are watching this episode in the future, that's old news for you. But basically the patch brought with it a bunch of new Vaal skills, even new areas and new bosses, and even these new monsters that we're fighting just here. So things have gotten pretty interesting, but the core game remains the same, like the core progression and things like that remains the same, especially in the standard leagues. If you're playing in the challenge leagues, then they have their own challenges. But this is a guide about, you know, surviving the core game experience, and you can adapt the things you learn to the other stuff. These guys are interesting. They actually blind you, but since we are a resolute technique character, see the blind effect, we actually can hit them regardless of being blinded, so you don't really need to worry about that on this sort of character. But with changes in the game and changes in balance and things like that, the metagame shifts over time. And lately I've heard people asking, is this still like the best beginner's build? And no, I don't actually think it is. If you want the easiest to level beginner's build, at the current in the current state of the meta, and this may be different in the future, but in the current state, things like Searing Bond builds or Flame Blast builds are the best things to level with. They can be leveled with very cheaply. They're spell-based builds, which means you need very little gear. And basically, you get a lot of damage very, very cheaply. You don't need really any gear, and you can do them on almost any build. You could be wanting to do like a Lightning Arc build at Endgame, and you can just level with Searing Bond and Flame Blast. Like, there's no real problems there. You don't really need to spec in too much to make those skills work well for leveling. So there's a lot of other options that are easier than the Lightning Arrow Ranger. But that brings up an interesting point. I never really designed the Lightning Arrow Ranger to be the easiest class to play. At the time when I first started making it, it was one of the strongest leveling classes because Lightning Arrow Rangers back then were very strong, especially Blood Magic ones, because you could actually use elemental auras with Blood Magic characters back in those days, and they were very powerful as a result. This is still a decent and strong class, a decent and strong build, I should say. It plays well. You can see that I have a pretty easy time with things like in here. Sometimes it can take a little while to kill certain packs, but a lot of the time it's pretty cruisy, you know. However, there are challenges with these characters. Getting a decent bow is one of those, and that's often one that people will ask me about and say that, you know, it seems quite difficult to really progress once you get to endgame because I need to get that bow. And yeah, it is something you kind of have to learn how to do. Put your head down and farm firstly to get that currency, so doing your Chaos Vendor recipes. And you also need to learn how to sort of use sites like PoEXYZ, use Trade Chat to find those deals, to find those good bows. So there is some challenges to overcome with this character that you don't necessarily encounter with a spell-based build. Spell-based builds have their own challenge. They tend to, as you get to endgame, have a delay in their damage until their skill gems level up. Basically, once your skill gems hit level 17, they start to level very slowly, and people will often say, well, my spellcaster just deals no damage all of a sudden, and that's because those people also just need to put their head down and farm and level up their skill gems to 20 before they'll start really dealing some big damage because spells scale off gem level. So that's a different challenge, but that's a simpler challenge to overcome. It's kind of just a time thing, whereas this requires a little bit more game knowledge, I think. But this is a good thing. This is how I designed this character with that in mind. I kind of mentioned this in the forum thread for the build that I'm playing, that I tried to design a build and a character. I'm kind of getting lost in here, it seems. I tried to design a build and a character that would be very strong, would carry new players to endgame, would be new player friendly, fairly simple, and fairly effective, and with decent strength at endgame and potential to segue into other things, and decent strength while leveling. However, not the easiest. And it also was a build that forced you to encounter a number of different challenges. Now, there's like a number of different gameplay mechanics you learn from this, but things like gearing up with a weapon-based build where you need to update your weapons every 5 levels or you will deal no damage, that's an interesting gameplay challenge. Where is the exit? Oh man, getting completely lost. This is the weirdest layout I've ever seen. But that whole process of, you know, having to upgrade your bow every 5 levels is an interesting thing, and I think that's a crucial skill for new players to learn in Path of Exile. This is the survival guide after all, and this is the survival guide build. And any good survival guild should teach you how to survive no matter which build you're playing, and learning how to upgrade your weapons for attack-based builds is crucial. I would hate to send people through with a very easy build that didn't really give you a good impression of the leveling experience of an attack-based character, for you only to make an attack-based build next time and sort of have a lot of trouble with upgrading your gear and things like that. Whereas with this, you guys can follow along with this. So hopefully that sort of increases your understanding of like the whys, knowing the whys behind my design of the series and the character and the build and everything like that will sort of help you understand what you're looking to learn out of this. And learning to upgrade gear and learning to actually encountering these challenges, not sort of just ignoring the challenges by playing something super easy, means that you will learn more in the long run and become a better player and probably get more out of the game. And, you know, that's my motto, knowledge to conquer. You'll get more out of games. I feel that you can get a lot more out of games if you kind of learn them on a deeper level, learn their mechanics and learn what makes them tick. So, basic stuff, we kind of progress through the sewer here. This zone can be pretty dangerous, there's a lot of lightning damage in here, and these guys here that charge do a lot of physical damage. Also, watch out for lightning thorns. These girls here cast, the Blackguard Archmages cast lightning thorns, so if you see lightning thorns floating around the enemies, do be aware that things like lightning arrow will reflect a lot of damage at you. Now we're using life gain on hit on our lightning arrow, which heals very, very rapidly, so it's not so much of an issue. But if you're using a fast attacking attack like Spectral Throat, for example, and you're not using life gain on hit, do be aware that you can kill yourself to lightning thorns very quickly. So be very careful of that. Use maybe a single target attack against those characters, or try and focus down those Archmages first. Being careful with your AoE skill usage. Sometimes I like to ignore rares because they do take a long time to kill. And I'm just like, yeah, that guy's going to take a while to kill, I'm going to ignore that one. It's probably not really worth the time in this sort of zone. In endgame maps, it's a different story. You're pretty much always full clearing endgame maps. But in these sort of zones, we're just looking to progress, really. We've done the farming in docks, we've done the farming in maybe catacombs, and now we're just looking to progress. So the reason why Piety is the next major in-game goal, and why we don't have any goals after that, is Piety has a quest reward that will give you 2 passive skill points. And this is obviously a big boost in strengthening your character. At this level, getting 2 passive skill points is often, you know, a very big boost up for your character. You can usually get something nice. Maybe you can get some aura nodes that you needed, or some damage nodes, or some more life nodes that you need to have a bit more survivability for maps. It's a nice thing to go for, and it's not too hard really. Also, Lunaris is a great farming zone, and Piety is also a great farming boss for farming currency. If you stack a little bit of Magic Find, or even without any Magic Find, farming Piety, so just simply running Lunaris very quickly, maybe killing some mobs in there for a quick XP, and then killing Piety will grant you a lot of rare items, even without any Magic Find stacked. And that's a great way. Getting those rare items is going to fuel the Chaos Orb recipe, which is the most consistent income you can get in Path of Exile. The most consistent and reliable income that you'll get is basically farming for those rare items, putting sets together, which is basically the full set of rare items, including 2 rings, amulet, 2 one-handed weapons, or a 2-handed weapon, boots, gloves, helmet, chest armor, belt. Get all those things together, all rare above item level 60, which Piety only drops over item level 60 things, and you get a Chaos Orb. You vendor it all for a Chaos Orb. So this is a very nice way to make a very consistent return on currency, return on your time basically, and to get your way into endgame gear. And there's also a good chance you'll find something really, really good that you can use or sell for a lot of money. So that's always nice. But Piety is one of the best ways to make currency in the early endgame of Path of Exile, and certainly in like getting into Nemesis League and in 1-week races, Piety farming has always been a really big deal for me, and it's been one of my biggest sort of things that's funded my shops and stuff like that. So we just killed General Gravicius, just keep moving against him. He's pretty simple as long as you've got enough damage and sustain. I just life leech through his attacks, and we're pretty good. Just make sure your fire resist is up to spec. By this point in the game, all of your resistances should be maxed out, and we're not quite there. But we're a good way. Cold resist isn't too bad. Piety deals some pretty bad cold damage. There's some lightning thorns just there. We can single target him. but we'll be okay. If you're sort of doing pretty well mechanically at the game, like you're able to control your character well and not having too much problems with that, then you can get by with lower resist for a while. But once you get into endgame maps, everyone wants max resist. But if you are sort of struggling mechanically, like you're probably not as very good at kiting or positioning and things like that, and do be aware of your weaknesses and limitations, then you'll need to work on maxing out your resistances and giving yourself more life on your gear and things like that. We've got almost 4k life and almost max resist. We're doing pretty well for a character just fighting their way to piety now, so we should be fine. This first piety kill can be a bit rough, but remember you're doing it to get your skill points. We might not be doing it for the rares yet. We might not be doing it to farm for XP and currency. You can always go back to docks or catacombs if you're a bit higher level. So at our current level, we can do docks for a little bit longer and still be quite efficient, but switching to catacombs isn't a bad choice, certainly. So I'm just going to work down the trash mobs here. I can probably kill this rare just after as well. So there's a summoner in there. Use my curse. I should be using my curse a little bit more liberally, and probably also keeping frenzy charges up, but focusing on commentary certainly has its drawbacks in terms of actual gameplay. So, piety is the last in-game goal, and I kind of have brushed across some of the other goals, like for example farming piety. But once you've done that piety thing, once you've got your passive points, it's a good idea while you're traveling here or around this point to start thinking about what your goals after that will be. Now, it's actually a really good idea to think about when you're designing your character what your goals will be. But as a beginner player, your goal is to get to endgame and experience some endgame early on, and that should be it. Just learning things about the game. It should be your primary goal. But as you're moving through these sorts of zones, you should start to think about what sort of things you want to do. Now, there's a couple different goals. Once you've gotten your piety passive points, you can start working your way into endgame maps. You can start building currency to build better gear to work into endgame maps or to do whatever else it is you want to do. Maybe you just want to gear your character up well. Maybe you want to start accruing gear and wealth for an alternative character, maybe your second character, and this is something you might want to do if you're playing this build, because this is, a beginner-oriented build. You may want to play something a bit more fancy next, so that could be a goal, accruing more currency. Or maybe you want to level up a lot on this character and don't really want to get into the map system just yet, then that's another goal. Maybe you want to progress through the map system as much as possible. So there's a number of different goals here. So with that in mind, there's a few different ways you can approach this, and these are some of the most common ways of approaching this. If you want to gain a lot of XP without entering the map system, most people will do Lunaris farming and then Catacombs farming. Lunaris farming is very fast and is very good XP, up until the point where you hit level experience penalty. Once you out-level a zone by too much, you start reaching level penalty, getting XP penalties. Once that XP penalty starts to become pretty severe, maybe around level 75 or so, then it's a good idea to switch to Catacombs and you'll get faster XP in Catacombs. So that's the general XP leveling method, and people use this method in 1 week races if they're trying to be very safe, like hardcore 1 week races. I knew someone who got into the top 20 just farming Catacombs the entire 1 week race. That might not be for everyone. It might not be everyone's cup of tea. Might be a little bit boring for some people, but other people kind of like just chilling out, listening to music and doing some farming. And that was their cup of tea, and they did very well doing that. So we got a lot of XP that way. It was very successful in the end. There's that waypoint. Do make sure to grab that waypoint. It's going to be the launching point for your farming runs in the future. And otherwise, if your goal is maybe to make a lot of currency to either fund an alt or to get yourself some better gear to get into maps, so maybe you haven't been able to get your good bow yet, for example, then one of the best ways to do that is piety farming. Now, some people will stack magic find gear and farm docks. That is a method that was pretty popular in the past, but I'd say piety farming is the most rewarding now. In a patch a couple patches ago, bosses' drop rates, especially piety, was buffed significantly, so they drop a lot more now, with or without magic find gear. But definitely getting a little bit of magic find gear is very helpful. I'm just going to avoid Cole completely here. There's never really a reason to fight Cole. They don't drop much loot compared to how dangerous he is, so he's a good candidate for a skipping. But you can stack a lot of magic find gear and farm docks with a party, or you can stack a bit of magic find gear or a lot of magic find gear, whichever you can get away with, and farm piety. Now, if you're an attack-based character like this, you just try and work in whatever magic find gear you can. And it could be just as simple as no magic find gear, simply equipping to one of your skills Culling Strike and increase item rarity support gems. Now, you could get something like Split Arrow. link it to Culling Strike, and increased item rarity. Simply use those three things together, and when you get Piety down to low life, so let's say like 10%, when you get it down to like 10% life, you just switch to Spit Arrow and Killer and get, you know, something close to 100% extra rarity, which actually makes a pretty decent difference. It will give you a noticeable amount increase in the amount of rares that drop and the occasional extra unique. So that's a nice way to get started. I reckon every character should do some of that. Looks like this is a dead end. Oh, this is very sketchy. Oh man. Alright, so we're gonna do some. Oh, we got the exit zone. That was very, very nasty. I probably should have been paying a bit more attention. But we're into Lunaris 3. All is well in the world, guys. Don't worry, don't stress. So that's the world building. The other goal is to progress into maps as much as possible. Now, maps has the end goal of giving you the best gear possible at the very end of maps, but don't go into maps looking to make a profit early on. Maps are mostly an expense. They're an currency sink. It takes a lot of currency to obtain and craft good maps and to progress in the map system. So don't go into maps expecting to make currency in the early to mid stages. In the long run, it is possible. Once you are farming high level maps proficiently and maintaining a map pool, you can get the best gear in the game and make a lot of currency that way through that gear you're finding, through finding high item level gear and some of the more powerful uniques that can only be obtained from maps. But the map system, I feel, is more about the challenge. Like, if you're looking for the challenge, then the map system might be what you're looking for. And that is the other goal there, to progress in the map system. So the initial way of getting to the map system, and I may talk about this more in this series, is where you sort of progress into the map system yourself, because I think getting into the map... I think with this character, I'm going to show you a bit of each of these things. But I think progressing into the map system is best started by farming a little bit of Piety. You know, the goals will sometimes, the things will sometimes overlap. Piety has a 50% chance to drop a map when you kill her. So this means that this is only a level 66 map, but it'll help you build your initial base of maps. You know, you want like 10 to 15 66 maps that you can just start running when you decide you want to start running maps. And doing a bit of Piety farming early on is a good way to build up those initial maps. If you have 166 map, then you'll probably do it, get no map drops, and then you're not doing any more maps. At that point, you go back to farming Piety to get some more maps. Now, your maps can drop anywhere, but you're going to get them much faster farming Piety, and you'll also be getting some extra currency and XP along the way. So that's a pretty good method to build up an initial map pool. And then once you get into the actual map pool, it's about sort of spending currency wisely, rolling maps correctly, and progressing through the map system that way, which is a complex and deep conversation, so we'll save that for later episodes. But in here, we're going to be sort of just farming through. Now, you want to stick to the outsides of these zones as much as possible, so I'm trying to work my way along the outside. Killing blue mobs in here is a good idea. These guys will give pretty good XP, so we're going to be killing all those. And we ran up a set of stairs there, so always try and head up the stairs in this. Now, I'm going to be playing pretty safely in Lunaris here. I don't want to die, I don't want to lose XP. You know, we're halfway through a level, I don't want to lose 10% XP. And if I always like to play like I'm on hardcore anyway, so I try to avoid dying. Life Leech is a good gem to pick up. It can be worth an Alk or even a Chaos early on in a league. And it's one you can never really... Oh, it's never one I would skip. I will skip gems, and if I do, I'll say why. But a question I often get on stream these days is which gems are actually worth something. And I think support gems often have a chance of being worth something. Things like Life Leech, Blood Magic, Chain, stuff like that. Those guys are often worth looking into. But also things like Enhance, Empower, the things that only drop are also worth a fair bit of currency. And then some stuff like Clarity Aura, which is very popular, but easy to obtain, can sometimes be worth an alchemy, but most gems aren't worth too much. So here we have one of the new corrupted zones, Hexproof Arcane Chambers. Monsters are immune to curses, area yields 18% more items. Now with these, this is sort of like... you farm this more difficult version of a zone, kind of like an endgame map, and then there's one of the new bosses at the end. And these bosses, after you kill them, have a chest which can drop either a map piece, which is for doing a special endgame map that has a special boss Atsuri, or they can drop the new Val skills. So these are often not worth doing in terms of time investment for reward, unless you're trying to look to get those map pieces, or if you're trying to get those Val gems, if you have a particular Val gem in mind. I'm going to be skipping over this for this episode, but we may talk more about those in the future and make some videos dedicated to those. So one thing that has changed since the last episode I recorded is that the Nemesis mods from the previous challenge leagues have now made their way into the core game, and these are rare. These will randomly spawn on rare mobs, and this one right here is Soul Conduit. So whenever I see those, I'll try and push these out for you guys. Now I'll show you guys what Soul Conduit do, but the best thing to do is to actually draw them away from all dead bodies and then kill them, because once you kill them, they resurrect bodies around them, so you see those guys get resurrected, and that can be dangerous if a bunch of really dangerous stuff pops back up to kill you. So the best thing to do is to draw them away, either kill them first before anything else around them dies, or to draw them away from any of the bodies and then kill them that way, so then they can't resurrect anything. Or if it's just a bunch of easy mobs you can deal with anyway, then just go ahead and kill them. But Soul Conduit can be dangerous if you kind of don't take notice of it, so always look out for that orange text on the rare names. Always check your rares before you kill them, because some of those Nemesis mods can be pretty nasty and can result in some surprising deaths if you don't realize what the Nemesis mod actually is. Be very careful in this zone of the vulnerability curse. You can see this by the giant C with the hooks on it. This will make you take more damage. As you can see, take more physical damage, more likely to be stunned, your energy shield regenerates slower, and degens have increased effect. The really big parts there are that you take more physical damage, which affects like the actual mobs that actually apply it, the whipping miscreations. It applies the punches from all these things, the tentacle projectiles from tentacle miscreations. So it's very nasty on that count, but it also increases the damage from the unrighteous fire mobs in here as well. So whenever you're cursed with that vulnerability curse, either if you have a curse removal flask, which is a good idea to try and have, then pop that. Otherwise, just be very careful of the damage you're going to be taking. You see I'm cursed again here. Now it's applied on hit in this zone by the whipping miscreations, I believe it is. They apply on hit the vulnerability curse, so I need to be very careful. I have there was the unrighteous fire effect there above my head, the burning molten lava thing. I take a lot extra damage from that with the vulnerability curse, so be very, very careful of that curse. It's one of the most dangerous ones in the game, I think. This mob just here, this Nemesis rare, has the Chronophage Nemesis mod just there, and it's one of the ones that aren't really that important. It applies a temporal chains effect to you when they hit you, so I think it's actually overridden by the vulnerability, so I don't even think it works on this mob. But it should apply temporal chains, but it looks like the vulnerability is actually overriding, so it does literally nothing on that mob. But it's not really one to be concerned about. I've never really found a moment where that's any more, like, is very dangerous. Sure, you'll run and attack a little bit slower. It's more annoying than anything else. I haven't really seen people get killed by temporal chains chronophage mobs before. They're more annoying than anything else. Alrighty, here we go. Merciless Piety fight, so always drop a portal in one of these zones so you can either run to it if you're in danger, or if you're on standard and you do happen to die, you can portal back in. Now I believe there's actually a checkpoint system now, so that's not as necessary. But I guess just old habits die hard. So we're going to be doing this fight nice and clean and simple, using safety and using things like decoy totems. I'll go ahead, watch this talking, throw a decoy totem, and I'll work down the closest chilling portal, kill those as quickly as possible. Because Ice Form is definitely the most dangerous. Fire Form is actually desirable a lot of the time, because it stops her from using her lightning spells, which can be quite dangerous, and it actually sort of keeps her still so you can attack her. Like with a character like this, with decent mitigation and a decent amount of life and life leech on our main attack, we can actually kind of just leech through the fire damage. So whenever she yells out like that, just take a step back, because she'll be using her Lightning Storm ability, or if you simply see the Lightning Storm, simply move back. Alright, she's Ice Form. I'm simply going to hang out over here. What you can do if you want to be tricky, you can throw a decoy totem out over there, wait till it procs. It has to be in range of her though. This one isn't range of her. I need to actually throw it in range of her. That was poor. But we're going to have to wait. Oh, she did teleport. Keep an eye out for those teleports. If she does cast a teleport, take note of which direction she was facing when she casted it, so you'll know where she goes. And if she's transforming, be prepared for her to move. Alright, so she transformed there. Alright, she did go up there. I didn't take note of where she casted it. Now we can hide behind this one. You do want to try and sneak some attacks in there while she's in either Ice or Fire form, so that she doesn't regenerate her energy shield. I've not been so great on that. Here we go, I can just go ham on here. If you are taking too much damage, you can actually throw down a decoy totem and use that to avoid her. You can actually move away from that decoy totem now, and she should cast her lightning spells on the decoy totem. She's probably going to attack it too. No, the decoy totem died when she lightning walked away. Alright, we should be able to kill her the rest of the way here. And nothing really too hard. If you've taken a bit of time... Oh, legendary! Unique item, my bad. If you've taken a bit of time to level up in Docs before going to Piety, she won't be too hard. As long as you've sorted out your resist. The cold resist, be aware if you've got cold resist like this that the ice form will hit pretty hard. Also, if you don't have much armor, 28% is okay-ish. It's not great. If you've got like 10 or 15% armor, you've got very low armor and should be very cautious of both the fire and ice form. They're both going to be dangerous for you. But this looks like a Moon Sorrow, which is a decent caster wand. It has blind supported for enemies. This might sell for like a Chaos or something. I don't think Moon Sorrow sells all that much, but it's still cool, unique. We also got a map, as I said, the 50% map drop chance from Piety coming out for us there and giving us one of our 66 maps that we'll be able to use later. Now I'm also going to grab the rest of this stuff, and we'll ID the rest of these items before we finish up the episode today, and I'll sort of talk about the items. Now, you don't need to grab the tower key. Now, this is like it for quest progression. This is pretty much it. There's some side quests and stuff like that you can go back and do if you want, and there is Dominus if you want to do that. That's just for the challenge. The reward for killing Dominus is a rare 66 map, which is really, really not worth it. Dominus is a very dangerous and tough fight in Merciless, so this is pretty much it. Kill Piety, and you can you're free to go into the map system and do whatever you want. You've got your passive points now when we go back to town. We're all pretty much set and good. So let's ID these items just here, and I'll take you guys through each of these items and whether I think they're any good. This item has nothing on it, no increased physical damage, so I'm just going to chuck it on the ground for now. Same deal with this, very low spell damage, no physical damage. This one has this has increased armor and evasion, but no life and only a very low resist, so that's not worth anything. This has 3 resists. However, it doesn't have a percentage increased energy shield. It has a flat energy shield, which is nice. Mana, this is almost a good chest actually. It has an average fire resist roll, and a decent cold resist roll, and a chaos resist roll. Now, chaos on pure energy shield armor is not all that popular unless someone's making some sort of low life build, but that's very uncommon. So I actually don't think this would sell, but it had potential. So that was a more interesting one. Life and a resist, but shields need to be pretty exceptional with block chance and a lot of armor and a lot of life and resist to be good, especially all resist, and that one's not very good. Angelic Kite Shield is a good base shield though. Always check those. Always ID those and check those because they can be quite good if they do roll well. When they're good, they're very good. Alright, let's ID these next ones here. We have these boots here have nothing on them, no move speed, just 1 resist, nothing else, so they're not very good. Life and a resist, but very low life roll and very low cold resist roll to falling, but that's not really any helpful here. Decent life roll and decent strength roll, but no resists or anything there, so again, not worth anything. Nothing here. Nothing there as well. A nice flat physical damage roll, but no percentage, and a lot of other useless mods. A very high strength roll, actually. Pretty funny stuff. And last shield just here. 71 life, 30 lightning resist, block chance, 41 strength. That's actually not too bad a shield, but it's on a bad base. The tower shield is a bad base. It's a slow moving base. It reduces your move speed, and it doesn't have all resist on it like the Angelic Court shield does. You see that it has an implicit 12% all elemental resist roll, whereas this does not. So I actually don't think this would sell, but it's actually not a bad shield. If this was an Angelic Kite shield, it wouldn't be too bad. Maybe it would need a few more resistances, but the strength roll is very high. The life is good. Block chance is nice. Damn, that shield wanted to be good. So I'm just going to take the rest of these to sell. If you want to collect stuff for the Chaos Spender recipe, this is a good chance to do it, obviously. Piety, as you can see, drops a lot of rare items. So after killing Piety and going back to town, you can simply talk to Grigor, grab your Book of Skill, use this, and get 2 free skill points. Well, not free, we did have to work for them. So I believe we're working our way up into Fury Bolts, and this is going to be very nice. 437 DPS, we'll use Frenzy. Unfrenzy charged Frenzy is 1800 DPS, 1820. And with the bow damage and Fury Bolt skill, we move all the way up to 2k and 40. So we've broken the 2k mark. Very nice damage upgrades there. It's going to be very nice for moving forwards and getting into maps and things like that. So anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed it. I think in the next episode we might be getting into the map system and maybe trying to respec out of Blood Magic on our character and start using auras, which is an endgame option for this build, an optional option. But that might be what we do in the next episode. I'll decide then. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.